let's do this trend. So on like TikTok, there's like some lady comes on and she's like, "What's the?" You know, she's holding her. It's just like this, right? So she's holding the thing. This is how they all do it. I can't even get it around my fat face. So
Awesome.
they all hold it like this, and they're like, one guy does the in the '90s, but she goes, "What's the most toxic thing?" Maybe she's just holding her phone. What's the most toxic thing a leader at your organization has said to you? And it doesn't have to be current.
Okay.
And I would like to give an example of um this is like the time that I was I I was probably like 20 and I was married at the time. Um Maybe I wasn't. I was close. Like my wife and I were like dating seriously. I think we had the wedding planned. We weren't married yet, but we were going to be. And my grandfather was not doing very well. He had had a series of strokes and he was in the hospital. And they he had a decision to make. We can give you this surgery and it will extend your life by maybe 6 months. And he chose not to do it, which is what a phenomenal example of a decision, like to have someone make a decision like that in your life, right? That you're close to.
Mm-hmm.
So a very courageous, brave decision, I think a lot of people would say. So he makes that decision, but then it's a slow process when, you know, the kind of active dying process, it takes a while. So he's in hospice and we all kind of go hang out every now and again. And I'm at work one day and my dad calls me and he's like, "Hey, if you want to be here, they think it's going to be pretty soon. Like, so come on over to the hospital." So I go talk to my manager, who was like the store manager at the time. I'm like, "Hey, I just got a call that, you know, my grandpa's in hospice. He's not doing good. They think it's going to be soon. So, you know, can I take off?" "No, I think we need you here." And I'm like, "Okay," because I didn't know anything. didn't know any better back then, right? And so
Right.
I finish out my shift and then I'm like driving over to the hospital and I get a call like halfway there. Like, "Yeah, he passed away a little bit ago. So no need to come." It's like, they're like, "You can come if you want to, but we're all just here like crying and stuff." And I'm like, "No, I'm good." I'm good. So like, I didn't know that basically it should have been a, "This is happening. Like this is an FYI, not a question."
Right.
And if they said that, it should have been a middle finger as I was walking out the door type deal.
Huh.
I think that's like the most. I think the most toxic. I have tons of other toxic stories, but that's probably like the most toxic that's ever been done to me specifically.
That's a good one. Um, I'm trying to think of toxic things. I've had I've had a manager, the like director of the department, tell me one thing, and then later I find out through other channels that he has in other meetings like said the complete opposite, where it caused me to do like I did a whole bunch of work that was completely pointless because he was just going to torpedo it somewhere else. That was pretty annoying to me. Um,
Yeah, for sure. I've worked with someone who did. They wouldn't tell multiple people different things. He would tell them all the same thing to kind of whip everybody up to do a thing. And there was nothing like more irritating than like going to a meeting with your deliverable and him having other deliverables from other people already. And it's like, why would you do that? why, why would you make us all think that this is super important, but you put 3 people on it and didn't tell anybody about that?
right, right. I'm trying to think of what else. Because there was a lot of like I'm trying to think of a specific thing, and I'm wondering if I have blotted it out of my memory because it was so bad.
what's a really good thing that a leader has said to you?
I had been at an engagement, and there was a fellow consultant who was sort of like technical architect kind of role, and he would somehow manage to piss off the client, like through just sort of an arrogant approach to things and being condescending. And I would hear through the informal network,
Favorite network?
that this was not going over very well. So I kind of went back to my company and said, hey, you know, this person isn't in my group. They don't report to me. I don't report to them. We don't even have the same reporting structure, but there are some issues going on. And they were like, well, okay, what should we do? And I said, well, let me just try to handle it because I have firsthand knowledge. So I'll just talk to this person and kind of give them a heads up. So I sat down with the person, like one-on-one in a conference room, back in the days when we were, of course, in person.
So long ago.
I know. And I said, hey, you know, here's what's going on. Here's what I'm hearing. You know, you just might want to soften the message a little bit, or, you know, the old thing, don't call their baby ugly all the time. You know, gently coach them into the decisions they should make. And this guy was not having any of it. He was like, you don't know anything. I got this under control. I'm told I've got this. You know, I know what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hey, you might very well know what you're doing, but this is the feedback I'm getting. And, you know, file or flush, your choice. He chose to immediately flush. And I would say 3-4 weeks later, the client said, we're kind of done with this guy. We're terminating his contract. Okay. And a few months later or whatever, the project kind of wraps up at this client, and we're doing this big retrospective back at our firm. And my boss is there, she was one of the greatest bosses I've ever had. She was awesome, supportive, reasonable, smart, great amount of EQ and IQ. She was great. And then, like, her boss is there, and we start talking about everything that went on at this client, and hey, you know, what could we do? And her boss at one point says, you know, it would have been really good if we had been able to get some intel on the problems going on with this other architect. And I kind of like turn and look like, what do you mean you had no intel? I didn't say anything. I just kind of turned, you know, my head just swiveled, like, and to her credit, my boss immediately chimes in and says, looks right at him, her boss, and says, oh, we knew. Steve told us. And he addressed the issue, and this person chose not to do anything about it. So that was pretty good. Like, publicly, I was validated, affirmed, and of course, naturally, though, the VP or whatever role this guy was in never bothered to look at me and go, oh, sorry. You know, never apologized or anything. Just kind of, you know, swept that under the rug. And,
yep, as they do.
So that was cool. That was great. There's others. I've had other really great leaders that I've reported to. Some not so great, but some very good. I think I've been fortunate to have probably a good 3 or 4 that I'm like, oh yeah, they're really good and kind of know what I need when I need it and don't bother me with stuff that I don't. How about you?
Kind of the one that I think I like the most is I was working at a store, and my friend was like a manager. I think I was a supervisor at the time. And, you know, when there were things that needed to be, like when we had like issues that needed to be fixed, like I would bring them to him. And one time he finally goes, you know what? He's like, you bring me problems, and it would be helpful if you would bring me solutions. And I'm like, got it. Never went to him for anything again. I just fixed it. Got you loud and clear, buddy. And so it's possible where, like, that's why I don't like, I know how to fix a lot of things, and a lot of people that are maybe in leadership don't. And so I just fix it. Maybe give them an FYI afterwards or something.
Sure. That's great that person was able to say that to you.
Right. Yeah, because it's not something that people say. I have also been told, that's above and beyond, like calling out, but not saying it in like that's above and beyond, we need to do it. Like that, just so you know, that's out of the scope of what you need to be doing. That is above and beyond what you should be doing. Like them letting me know, like you don't need to do that at all. And it's fine. Which is not something that happens hardly at all. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's great. I'm trying to think. I know I've had, like, as I mentioned, a fistful of really good managers over the years. I had one who, gosh, I wish I had kept in touch with him. I haven't, though. He's like, God, he's some like VP of like Hitachi or something now, but he was great. He was at the time he was kind of like a rising star in the company, and was probably getting roles that really stretched him. And it was great because he was up for the challenge. But there were moments where he was like a little bit in over his head, trying to figure things out. But I always had, tremendous confidence in what he was going to do. And he may not have always done the right thing, but he was always doing the right thing. He was always doing it for the right reason. Like, hey, this is the best information I've got at this time, so here's what I'm going to do. And I was like, cool, I'm good with that. And it may not have worked out in the end, or, may have had issues, but I always felt like his heart was in the right place, and he was always doing the right thing. And I bet I haven't talked to him in, gosh, 12 to 13 years, I'm guessing. But he was great. I wish I had kept in touch with him. Pat, if you're out there, he was great. Yeah. Yeah, he was good. Erin, I mentioned Erin earlier. She was great. I had kind of an early mentor, Dave. He was great. Dave was great. He made it. You've arrived when you've made it into my Dungeons and Dragons game as an NPC, where I have you in there, and I'm like, I know who this person is. I'm going to play their personality, and they play a certain role. Dave was in there. Dave was great. So it all comes back to Dungeons and Dragons for me.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
I think I'm gonna get the Stranger Things starter set.
What?
Well, yeah, the kids they wanna try it because of Stranger Things. They play it in the show, right?
Dude, I'm running a Welcome to D&D game in like 2-3 weeks.
Yeah. I probably
You're like, yeah, I'm not going to Steve. That's a bunch of crap. I can do this on my own. I got this.
Well, it's really interesting because I'm the odd man out in my long-standing friend group. I'm the only one that doesn't play D&D. Like, I'm the weird one. I'm not into RPGs or anything like that. Like, they all love that stuff. They're like, yeah, we're playing Diablo 4 when that came out. I'm like, okay, let's play. Hate RPGs. Like, I am not like I'm not in the same headspace as them, and like I can't hang with them, right? Because they're so into it, and I'm like, I'm bored. If we're not playing together, I'm bored, man.
Sure.
And so yeah, I have so many friends that play D&D, never played it. Never had an interest, but then my kids, they were like, we want to play, like the littlest ones were like, we want to play. And so I just asked all of them, and they were all like, yeah, we'd play. I'm like, are you serious? Like, okay.
Wow.
Coming back in big ways, man. I mean, it never really left, but
No, but it's hit more mainstream. Stranger Things has, in my mind, been a bigger influence than Critical Role. Although the geeks reference Critical Role and the mainstream people reference Stranger Things.
yeah.
But both of them have been very key.
Yeah, Critical Role was, I mean, that was if you were into the streaming scene or anything, like if you watch Twitch or anything, like you would
Right.
get exposed that way.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And I'm not. Like, kudos to the Critical Role people for making this a big thing. That is
right.
awesome. Wow, good for them. But I'm not going to watch people play D&D. I'd rather be playing it. You know, if I'm going to spend my time involved in this, I'm either playing it or creating the next adventure for my players.
Yeah, and I think Critical Role is, I mean, because they have a lot of voice actors and things that do it. So I think that's a big appeal.
Yes.
As well, as that they're people who are kind of actors that are very good at
storytelling. Oh, yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Stranger Things, it's because they were so young, and then they have the story kind of like for part of like the beginning, you know, part of me is like, well, I want this to be like at the end, it's just the game. Like part of me is like, I just want this to be the campaign. I think that would be like a Sixth Sense type deal, right? Where it's just like,
right,
they've been playing and it's just, it was like one Saturday night.
Yep. It's interesting. The show is really the game, kind of. So.
Well, yeah. So I kind of thought that, but it's more like, I mean, they don't have knowledge of what's happening. They only have knowledge of the game. So they're using references from the game to name things and to figure out strategies.
Yes, absolutely.
In the real world, which I think is a very cool thing to do.
But what they're doing, exploration, investigation, solving puzzles, fighting monsters, it's the game. Which you could quite frankly argue about many things. Like, it's just Stranger Things is very overt about it. So, yeah.
Yeah, which is, I mean, really cool. I think it's funny how because it's set in the 80s. I was very young when, like, really young when that whole thing had taken place, like a baby. But, you know, from what I remember kind of from the 90s about things, the way that they portrayed how things were being in the media, I think was like spot on.
Yes. They had the town hall meeting was was amusing. You know, and what's interesting about that, and for those of our 3 or 4 listeners that are out there that don't know what this is back in the day there was a young guy, he was like college age, who went missing at his college, and a reporter jumped to this conclusion that the kid disappeared because of the D&D materials that were found in his dorm room. Turned out to be completely unrelated, but it created what was known as the Satanic Panic, where anything related to D&D was evil and we don't understand it. It was the old thing, we don't understand it, so we fear it kind of thing. Classic thing. But the way they portrayed that with the town hall meeting and people just being really up in arms, and the one little girl going, "This is just a game for nerds. What are you people talking about?" And, you know, completely over their heads. I'd rather be fearful of it than try to understand it. So that was great. That was very well done. They didn't dwell on it too much to make it like
Right.
But they were like, "Yeah, no, we're gonna cover this and show that what can happen when you're ignorant and you become fearful of something, that it can become dangerous." So
Yeah. I like to bring this back to Star Trek, of course, as many times as I can.
yes,
That's one of the things I love about Star Trek, right? Is like just the whole difference in the society we live in, which is we don't understand something, so we fear it. Whereas Star Trek is all about we don't understand something, so let's go understand it.
mm-hmm.
Which I like. That's like one of my favorite quotes from Star Trek Beyond, right? Is we know that the unknown is just the temporarily not understood or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good, if I could quote it the right way.
Didn't we cover this in a previous
I think
podcast
so.
about magic being what we don't understand?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It all comes back.
Yeah, is that the one where we talked about the alien that had the ship that was orbiting the planet that was cloaked and she could do stuff with like a contact that she had in her eye?
Yes.
And then they like found out about it and then did it back. It's the greatest thing ever.
Yes, that was a classic. Yep.
So have you watched Stranger Things then?
I have. It's funny. I finally got caught up. Probably more due to self-imposed pressure to just get through it than to really just kind of watch it and enjoy it. I felt it got a little slow at times, but it was interesting. There's definitely, I will say this, and this is true for any show or movie, less so for movies, more so for a television series. There are certain characters I really enjoy, and so when their scenes come on, I am glued to it. And other times I'm like, can I fast forward this? Will I miss anything? Anyway, how about you? You seen it all?
Yeah, so I watched it with our youngest ones. And they like it is hilarious, right? Because my wife and I were a little bit like, are they too young type deal? Like it's rated TV 14. We have some friends in this age range that have seen it. And so I watched the first like 5 episodes and I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, it could go either way, right? It's like, because it's like kind of spooky and like it's like kind of high schoolish preteen with all the making out. It's like the one episode or whatever, right? So I'm like, I don't know. And so I'm like, I'll just let them watch one or something and we'll kind of go from there. And they had seen some things on YouTube. They'd seen a bunch of stuff on YouTube already, so they knew a lot of this stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay. And the thing that shocked me the most was how these ones, when people were getting murked, they were laughing their heads off. Like they weren't scared that people were getting murked. They're like, oh my gosh, this is so funny.
Really?
Yeah, there's one time like we're sitting there, it's a scene where there's gonna be a jump scare. It goes dark, right? And it's like, well, this might be the end of the episode type deal, but someone's gonna fight a Demogorgon, and then it jumps out from the dark screen that's been dark for like 5 seconds, right? And so it goes dark and they're all like, it's gonna be a jump scare, and then it happened and they all screamed. And then they're laughing, they're like, I knew it was gonna happen, it still got me. So it was pretty funny.
That is awesome. Wow.
Yeah, it's really great because I think a lot of times parents and people think that kids and just people in general are stupid and they don't understand the difference between entertainment and reality, and it couldn't be further from the truth. People just like to demonize things. And so here it's exactly like they all knew that this was all entertainment. Nobody had nightmares, nobody was scared, like nothing. They knew that everybody was okay. They thought the Merc scenes were hilarious, which just makes me laugh. If only I felt like that when my dad showed me Alien when I was like 8 years old, right?
Wow. Classic.
Yeah.
Who knew at that time that movie would have such a long-term effect, and it just timeless.
It's just
It's
bunch of
aged
movies.
well. It is aged well.
Yeah, a bunch. I mean, Star Wars. It's finally now to the point, probably like 10 years ago, where it stopped aging well. But it's like it was still pretty good for a while. I mean, it really wasn't until because they tried to do it with 1, 2, and 3, and it really wasn't that great, right? But it's like 7, 8, and 9.
Those didn't age well the moment
No,
they were seen.
They're so bad. I mean, compared to like 4,
Yes.
5, and 6, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But 7, 8, 9 were like, this is, and then that's what it is moving forward with everything else. And so it's like, I mean, it's fantastic to me, but it's crazy. Like 30, 50 years, not quite 50 years, but 45 years, something like that. Those things were kind of the standard a little bit.
Yeah. I wonder what the characteristics are of movies that have aged well. And is it reputation, or is it perceived public acceptance, or is it really just the material is, yeah, this is good?
I don't know. Like, I mean, I've never seen Avatar. Like everybody raises, I don't, no interest in that. I don't know why. It's like there was a formula that Steven Spielberg was trying to follow.
Yeah, Dances with Wolves.
Yeah, because I think was it.
There's one that's aged well.
I think I've seen Dances with Wolves. Well,
Dances
there's that.
with Wolves is one of those movies where when it comes on TV, I will watch at least part of it, and probably due to the guy who plays Kicking Bird, the Native American. He is awesome, and any scene with him in it, I am glued to that screen when he's on. He is awesome, and Kevin Costner's fine. The story is great, but Kicking Bird, wow.
It's super weird, right? Because it's so like the Transformers movies. I don't know if you've seen any of them. Like a lot of them are not good.
Okay.
And like they're just like they're so, but like for my friend's bachelor party, he wanted to see Transformers 4 or something, so we all go, which is hilarious, right? So it's all of us that have been friends forever, we all go see Transformers 4, and it's like the worst movie. It's so bad. It's like freaking, if you've ever seen The Big Hit, which is a hilarious, I love that movie because it's so funny, because it's so stupid. It's got like John Leguizamo in it, and it's got Marky Mark and stuff, right? But it's like it's things like Mark Wahlberg is climbing up a hill. He crashed his car and he's walking up a hill from where his car crashed to the road. And when he starts that walk, it's daytime. And when he gets to the street, it is nighttime. Like and that's what Transformers 4 was. It was just like, it didn't, no sense. Like just, and like my favorite joke in that whole movie is like, someone's like, what if this thing exploded? Like, what kind of damage are we talking about? And they're having this conversation over text, and the scientist texts him back and he goes, think of a tactical nuclear weapon, LOL, smiley face. It's so stupid, but then the guy that gets the text reads it out and he starts laughing. I'm like, that was dumb, but I'm really mad that that's funny to me. But it's just like, they're not good movies, but They're so popular. And the other thing is, Michael Bay's the one that does them. Like, he says you have to do these type of movies to get the money to do the really, really good ones, because it's these movies, for whatever reason, appeal to the masses, and people go make it. Like, that's what makes them money. It's so bizarre.
Lowest common denominator.
I mean, I've seen this a lot of times in tech too, where, I mean, especially like in the mobile space, back a while ago when, after the iPhone was first released, and a few years after that, when everything kind of started heating up, and people, like the geeks, didn't understand, they're like, why wouldn't they do these things? Why do they have these limitations? And it's like, because you're not actually the target market. Like, the target market is a bigger group of people that have more money. Like, we're like a niche.
Mm-hmm. It's the same thing with beer.
Yeah.
There's a reason like Coors Light and Bud Light and Miller Lite are the huge sellers.
Yep.
It's not that they're great beer. It's that the most massive amount of people will drink it.
Yeah. Yep. And then you get like this, then you have these weird things where it's like, I don't think anybody expected Star Wars to be a hit when it was released. I mean, and it's not like, because not everything they did was good, right? So they had the Christmas celebration, like Wookiee Life Day, which was like a huge flop at the time. Like nobody cared. They thought it was the dumbest thing ever, but everybody went and saw the movies.
Well, you look at The Princess Bride. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a movie tons of people now have seen. In fact, when somebody says, I've never seen it, is that a shock to you?
Yeah, a little bit.
It is to me. It's like, what do you mean you've never seen this film that is, what, 30 years old?
Yeah.
That is, but when it came out, it totally flopped. Yep. In fact, I remember Rob Reiner saying when he wanted to make this movie, he like went in to the producer or whatever, and they said, okay, what do you want to do? You can do anything you want. I think this was on the heels of him having made Spinal Tap, I think. They're like, what do you want to do? You can do anything you want to do, just not The Princess Bride. He's like, that's what I want to do. Nobody knew what to make of it. And it comes out and flops at the box office. And then it goes to, DVD and cable. And like it explodes like, LOL hashtag
right.
Greatest tactical nuclear explosion ever.
Napoleon Dynamite's another one that was like that too. Did so bad in the box office, and then it hit DVD, and they were like sold out. Like I was working at a blue box store at that time, and I remember it came out. I'm like, what the heck is this? And like the person that was over there, he's like, you don't know about this? He's like, this movie did so bad, but it's like the most popular selling DVD. I'm like, what?
Yeah, that was another fantastic movie.
Yeah, and we love it. Like we watched it on DVD, of course, and we loved it.
Yeah, it's so offbeat though that you totally understand why it didn't do well at the box office, because who's going to come out of there going, you got to go see this? Because you're like, I was completely entertained, but there is no way anyone else is going to love this. But it was awesome. And then you find out, wait a minute, a bunch of other people really thought this was great too. Yeah, that was good.
So have you seen the new Dune? Have you seen the old Dune?
I've seen the old Dune. I've read the book. I've seen the old Dune, Kyle MacLachlan, Patrick Stewart.
Yep. Yep.
Who else was in that? Who was she was in Silverado, the shorter gal as Shadowt Mapes. It's gonna kill me that I don't remember her name, and I really apologize to her right now, because I'm sure she's listening to this podcast at any moment. I think this is her favorite from 1984. I will tell you in a second. Oh, Brad Dourif was in it too, who was in Deadwood. He was awesome as Piter DeVries, but I am thinking of not Sting.
No, but he was in it too, yeah.
He was in it as favorite. He was actually very good. I thought he was sufficiently like Linda Hunt. Linda Hunt was who I'm thinking of. Linda Hunt, shout out to you. She was great. But Sting was sufficiently like crazy evil. He was great. But yes, I did see the 1984 version, which was, I sat there in the whole movie turning to my two friends beside me, explaining everything, because I had read the book and they hadn't. And I did see the first Dune of the remake this summer.
Yep.
The second one isn't out yet, is it?
No, they weren't going to make another one. That's the thing that is, it's like, so this is like Stranger Things and this, so they had only made the one, and then they didn't have plans to make the other one, and then it released and it did so well, and they're like, oh, we're gonna make the other one. So I don't even think we're gonna get it until next year.
Okay.
And Stranger Things was the same way. Like, and I totally get.
Sure.
So, yeah,
totally
you go. Fun. Yeah, you go Dune, and then we'll get back to Stranger Things in a minute.
Okay. So, have you seen Dune?
Yes.
Okay. So, and I thought this. I went in with extremely low expectations.
Yep.
The couple of the characters were like, they're okay. The ornithopters was probably worth the price of admission alone. The dragonfly-like ships. Wow. That, like, I could watch an hour's worth of them flying around and I'd be like, that was an awesome movie. I found it entertaining. I thought it was handled a little bit stronger to the story than the first one, because they had more time. They had only done half of it, right? But I also
and that was still a bit too fast, in my opinion, too.
Yeah, it was. But I found some of the characters to be unconvincing. I still enjoyed it, like, and I would totally watch it again. But like Lady Jessica, the performance was just okay. The Jamis, is that his Jamis? I think that was his name. The guy Paul had to fight with the crysknife. He was just okay. Stilgar wasn't as. I wanted Stilgar to be like, man, he is intimidating, and that wasn't there for me. But I found like the special effects were so much better. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it was. I also went into it with low expectations, just because I'd never seen the first movie. I had seen parts of it, so I'm familiar with some of the things. But again, I was really young, so like I'd caught it on TV. It was on TV one time or something, and I had seen parts of it. And so I'm never gonna go back and watch the old one, like, ever. And so this one came out, low expectations. And I was entertained for 2.5-3 hours, however long it was. It was a really long time. I was entertained for that time. That's about it.
Yep, sure. I do, by the way, have an awesome, and I've probably had it on during some of our podcasts, but I have a propensity I enjoy buying beer t-shirts that aren't truly beer t-shirts. So I have a Melange Lager beer shirt that says it's spicy, and it's a reference to Dune. And so if you go back to any previous episodes of ours and I'm wearing a blue t-shirt, it might say Melange Lager and it's referring to Dune. So I also have a Firefly one if you're into Firefly. Are you a Firefly guy?
Nope, never got into it.
Oh my gosh.
I know, so it's well, okay, so Stranger Things and then Firefly / Earth and Beyond or something. So the ending for Stranger Things, Stranger Things was the same thing. They were done. That was it. That was the end, right? And so I see the end. Obviously, I know there's going to be another season, but it's like, so I see why they did what they did from an artistic perspective. I think it was a great, like, artistical finale. Fantastic, especially that image. Phenomenal.
Which one of
Stranger Things?
Which season?
Season 4.
Okay.
So season 4 was supposed to be it. There wasn't going to be a season 5, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But I get why everybody's pissed off, because like nothing got resolved and there were just more questions, and they were basically like, yeah, there's more coming, but you don't get to know. That's not cool. Like,
sure.
So now we have to wait 2 years, right, to get a new one, because they had no plans to do it, and they got to get everybody back.
And we get to see these young kids grow up immensely, sort of like the transformation of Mike Wheeler from season 3 to 4. Whoa.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the age that they're at too. So like,
yes, totally.
It's totally fine. Like, that's what happens. That's why like Lord of the Rings is one of my favorite trilogies, because they filmed it all at the same time and nobody ages.
Right.
Fantastic.
Right. Totally agree. And that was one of the few occasions where the movie was better than the book.
Never read the books, and I won't either. But yeah,
there's no point. The movies and the books were great. Keep in mind, I love the books. They were very interesting, way ahead of their time. But if you've seen the movie, there's no reason to go see the book or go read the book.
Yeah. I had friends that have read the book, and they're like, yeah, this battle that took place at the end of the first one, that was really in the second book. I'm like, okay. They're like, but they had, they're like, they had to add it in to make it spicy.
Yeah. So Stranger Things, coming back to that, Stranger Things is one of those shows where whichever are the characters that are in it, I'm either interested or just like, I could be on my phone just waiting for the scene to end. Who knows? Which I will readily admit, I'm a shit for doing that. Like, why can't I just keep my attention on this thing? It's not that long.
Well, I mean, season 4 was all like an hour and a half, and then 2.5 hours. Like, they were all movies, basically.
Yeah, but the scenes with Joe Keery and
Millie Bobby Brown.
No, Hawk. What's her name? Robin.
Oh yeah.
I can't think of her first name. Actress last name is Hawk. Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman's daughter.
Yeah.
They were great. That, like, I can watch, and Joe Keery is my favorite character from the whole thing, because you see him being the complete like asshat in the beginning, to when he gets. Of course, the season with the whole Russian tunnel under the mall was completely ridiculous, but the greatest scene is my theory. I'm going to have a lot of detractors on this, but the best scene in the entire 4 seasons so far of Stranger Things was when Joe Keery, playing Steve Harrington, is in the ice cream shop with Maya Hawke. And he's sitting there, and Gaten Matarazzo comes back. Dylan, is that his name?
Dustin,
thank you. Dustin comes back from camp. Dustin walks into the ice cream shop, and he and Steve are like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And Maya is just sitting there. Robin, the character, looks at Steve Harrington and goes, how many children do you know?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Absolutely. I don't know who wrote that line. That was the greatest scene of the entire series right there.
That was pretty good. Yeah, she was a good ad.
Yeah, but I think it personified right there, crystallized Steve's departure from being the kind of the asshat boyfriend into, he's kind of like, I'm cool with younger kids, and I'm going to kind of be their like mentor and whatnot. That was gold.
I thought so. They were setting him up to be the asshat boyfriend, like in the first few episodes, 100%. Like, that's where I thought it was going to go. And then it's like that whole thing, with Nancy and Justin, and the way that he reacted, because he's not the one that did the thing, but the way he reacted, I'm like, oh, they've taken this in a completely different direction. And it wasn't like a Pygmalion style thing. This was, he was really interested in her, and so then you've got that kind of tension between them the whole time. So but yeah, I thought they were gonna do that. Like, I thought that's the path we were going down for the first few episodes, for sure.
Yeah. Joe Keery, Steve Harrington, 2 thumbs up.
But that's again
by far my favorite character.
And that's the thing, like, who would have thought that this thing would have been that big? Like, it's so, like, I mean, it's not pop culture. Like, nothing about it. It's retro, it's nerd, like, it's fantasy. It's
Yeah.
I mean, there must be something like science fantasy and just fantasy must just appeal to everybody like way more, because it's like I like the Star Trek. I'm not an original series fan. I really like, I mean, Spock original series, like hands down, and McCoy for sure. But it's like the homage that those guys played in the new ones is like dead on. Like I love the reboots of those movies. Everything I thought was, the casting was phenomenal in all those movies.
Yeah.
But and my train crashed. Been doing that a lot lately. But it's like Star Trek, it doesn't do as well compared to things that are just straight up fantasy. Like I remember at our company a long time ago, I asked, we were in the office, and everybody in the office, I think we were just goofing around. It was some kind of meeting, and I'd put in there as like, I think maybe we were testing like a way to vote virtually or something like that. And one of the questions I'd put in there was Star Wars versus Star Trek. And it was like, Star Wars was like a landslide.
Really?
Yeah, did not expect that at all. So it's
and I look at them as both having their place, but I look at Star Trek as being way more relevant.
Yeah. I mean, because Star Trek it's science fiction, right? But it's like, it's also has pushed science to become reality as well. So it's like those.
Yeah, like, and it deals with way more moral conundrums and challenges. And what would you do in this case? The whole Prime Directive.
Yeah.
I mean, that comes up in,
it's like almost every season at least once.
Yeah, every season there's at least one episode where I, as a viewer, am left looking, watching it going, God, what would I do? And when I watch Star Wars, I'm thoroughly entertained, but I'm never saying, what would I do?
Yeah, right. And that's maybe why the Star Trek reboots did well, and maybe why the original series did okay, is like, it's a Western. Like, that's just how it is. And a lot of the new Star Wars stuff, it's a Western, which I'm totally okay with. But like the new Star Trek, I think it's Beyond, where they're surfing, blasting Beastie Boys. I let that slide. I didn't want to be, I'm not really okay with it, but like I let it slide because that's just how it is.
Sure. So if you're fine with the whole space Western, why have we not had the Firefly discussion yet?
So I don't know. So there was a show prior to Firefly called Earth Above and Beyond. Have you heard of that?
No.
Okay, so that is, Earth is not doing great. And they're going to send out these big ships with all these people to try and find a new planet for everybody to live on.
WALL-E. I've seen that.
Okay, so there's two. I'm confusing two. There's Earth Above and Beyond. And I think I only got through the first season of that one. There's another one where they're like fighter pilots. I think it's very similar to Firefly, which is why I probably didn't care about Firefly. But
Battlestar Galactica.
Nope, not Battlestar Galactica. I've never seen any of those either. Not the old one, not the new one. Starbuck.
Apollo, the Cylons. Come on.
No.
Okay, go ahead. Fighter pilots, Earth Above and Beyond. Go ahead.
Hold on, let me see here.
By the way, you do not have Firefly pegged at all.
Because I've never seen it.
If you watch it, you will go, oh my gosh, how did I miss this? And as further creds for that series. My wife hates it.
Okay, so
like Space Cowboys, I don't get this.
okay, so I'm confusing the two shows. So Space Above and Beyond. That is the show that I'm thinking of with the fighter pilots.
Okay. Firefly is not fighter pilots.
He goes into, all I know is that it's got Nathan Fillion and he goes into space. That's all I know. Literally. Yep. That is all I know.
That is true. What you know is true.
And I only got that from another show that he was on, which was The Big Bang Theory.
Really? He talked about it there? Because he, in Castle, which was a show he was in, there are a couple of references he makes to Firefly.
Okay.
In fact, on a Halloween episode, he gets dressed up in this Halloween garb, and he's wearing his outfit from Firefly. And his daughter looks at him and is like, "Didn't you wear that like a couple of years ago?" It was awesome. Great line.
Okay, so Earth 2 is the TV show. Earth 2 is the TV show I was confusing between. I was getting Space Above and Beyond and Earth 2, two separate shows.
Now, is Earth 2 at all related to like the Earth 1, Earth 2 of like Justice League Heroes, Earth 1, Earth 2?
I don't think so. Earth 2 is...
I may be going...
Earth 2 is the planet's dying, and they're trying to find another place to go. And
we just lost half of our audience right there, by the way. So 2 people have dropped.
when we started talking about Star Trek?
Yeah. Come back! I can change! I can change! Come back! Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so I don't... Yeah,
Earth
Firefly... 2. So, I don't know. Firefly just never... It was just never on my radar. Was that at the time when the guy that played Hercules was... Because that was a sci-fi show, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Sci-Fi Channel show? And was that on it?
No, I think it was on Fox when it started.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I just missed it completely.
Okay, here's why. They filmed this stuff. They've got 1 season of shows. Joss Whedon, well-known director.
Right.
Fox airs the episodes in the wrong order. You know Picard's facepalm?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so they air them in the wrong order, and then they decide, we're going to cancel this. And the fans are like, what? And so they end up have a movie later. So there's a full-length movie to close everything up. But you get 1 season of 12 or 14 episodes. But if you watch them in order, by the end of the first episode, which is like a double episode, right? The pilot, you're like, okay, I'm in. I'm in.
That's so great. Like how corporate of them. We made a mistake, so everybody loses. It's not like, but also like how forgiving is the audience that nobody cared and they were mad that they were canceling it, and not like, you could have just kept doing. I mean, we've got Quentin Tarantino. You just start in the middle and we'll Tarantino it and end up at the beginning.
Yeah. But it might be my favorite TV series of the last 15, 20 years. And it lasted 1 season.
Yeah. Now,
part of it could be like it only lasted 1 season. So you got everything. And it left me wanting, as opposed to dragging something on and going, all right, come on, move this on. To your point, you talked about like when they made Stranger Things, how many seasons were they really thinking of? They might have been only like, we're just going to do this 1 season. We're going to wrap everything up, which they kind of do. Every season, they kind of tidy things up. And then the new season starts and a new hole in the dike has sprung and they got to go fix that, right?
Right.
So, so maybe part of my romantic view of Firefly is just that it was only one season and I feel ripped off. Because they were all, like, the characters. To me, it was all about the characters.
I mean, TV, I don't even know what to call it. That media has changed quite a bit, right? So, I mean, it stems from television, obviously. And so, like, that whole thing is, was it 2018? Like, when Amazon, like, really, they produced, like, the Carnival Row and The Boys. Like, I mean, Netflix had been doing that already. Like, that was the way that we were going. But it's like
was
everybody.
Carnival, who was Carnival the one with the guy from White Collar?
It was Orlando Bloom and Carla Delevingne were like the two main characters. The one about the fairies. Yeah. And it was very relevant. Like, that's probably why I liked it so much, is it was super relevant to what was going on in the world and our country at that time.
Very true. Tim DeKay. He was the one I was thinking of. Okay. Carnival.
But that's like that seemed to be the time when they all like really upped the ante as far as production goes. I mean, Amazon had done some really good things in like the kid TV space. But yeah, it's just, things are just different, which I really appreciate. Like, I remember listening to a podcast and they were talking as someone had been doing podcasts for like 12 years. It's like they were one of the first ones, right? And someone was talking to them about somebody else who I think it might have been one of the true crime ones or something. They created a podcast, they do a number of episodes, and they have seasons and everything. And he was like, well, he's like, they came from TV. So like, if you're coming from TV, that's how you would apply your knowledge to this medium. That's how you would structure things. And that's what I appreciate about like Netflix and Amazon and everybody doing their own production, is we've gotten away from this, The Office and, you know, all these shows that should have been killed after the fifth. I mean, The Office could have probably kept going, but it's like, you know, How I Met Your Mother's another one. Like, after season 4, it was donezo. You did not need to go to season 9, and season 9 was basically just a parade of your friends. Like, it was just ridiculous. And so I appreciate that they don't do that. It's more like the UK, that's kind of how they do it. Like the IT Crowd, phenomenal 4 series, 6 episodes each, and then just over, because they were like, we did everything that we think we could do. We don't think we could top anything that we had done. And everybody wanted the extra episode, and they released it. And I'm like, they didn't top anything that they had done. Like, I liked it, don't get me wrong, but it's like, yes, that's exactly why you stop.
Right. You have just touched on something that I wish the filmmakers, whatever, would do, is don't think in terms of we need X number of episodes that are so long, blah, 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 and so many seasons. Just find your story, film it, make it good, and whenever it ends, it ends. Don't give me a bunch of crap I need to watch to get through to the end of the episode to see the cliffhanger or whatever. Just get me there and then end it. Don't give me the constraints, whatever, time frame constraints you think you need. Just get there. Give me the writing. Don't give me the fluff.
And I would definitely appreciate I don't like the yearly extension, right? I don't, because then the writers are stuck with, at least to me, like as a lay person, I feel like as someone who consumes it, you're stuck with either trying to end the entire series at everything has to either be the season's over or the series is over.
Right.
And I'd prefer to just think it through and just like plan for this many seasons to get to your point, to get the story out.
Right.
And hey, if it happens to get canceled, it happens to get canceled. It's just gonna be, and then you've got all the material to make a movie.
Yes. Now, as fate would have it, that is exactly what Firefly has.
Right.
There are all these unopened questions where you're like, wait, what's with this? What about this? And they ramp up as many as they can in the movie, but you don't like. There are some questions where you're like, I have no idea where this was going.
Yeah,
no idea.
I think that might be. That's probably going to be a trend. I mean, if Stranger Things, it appears to me as though they may have planned on 4 seasons, and then they got to that, and they were going to be done, and it didn't answer a lot, and it left a lot to be wanted, and they were okay with that. That was the story. Which, I mean, sure, like money could be it, but it's like that's different. It's very different than.
But they could end it anywhere.
Yeah.
They could be like, look, we're done.
Yeah. Which they've said, they're like, we're not, it's 5 and that's it. And I'm like, well, 5, it better be freaking 3-hour long episodes for like 9 of them then.
God, I hope not. That's where you get the fluff. Just hit me with what you got for the story. Keep the good stuff in. Show a lot of Steve Harrington and Maya Hawke. Don't give me any of the fluff.
It was very
great. Dustin's great.
It felt very Dustin. Like Dragon Ball Z-ish at times, right?
Oh,
where it's
my gosh. Sometimes it's like, oh, this is a scene that's going to drag this out. Oh my God. I did like Eddie. I can't recall Joe something who played Eddie.
Yeah, he was a good. Everybody's been good. I mean,
I think he was good from the I am an outcast and there is no good reason why I'm an outcast. That was great. Like, really very good social commentary. Good guy. Love the fact that, like, spoiler alert, right? Season 4. Oh, he's like, I'm gonna man up. I'm taking one for the team.
Not gonna run away.
Yep. To quote Bob Marley, redemption song for him.
Yeah, it's also that show. Just the season 4 was a bit soap opera-ish too. And like, there's so many different things going on.
Oh man, it was painful to watch Al get just destroyed by the pops or the popular gal and her through. That was tough to watch.
It was tough, but it's real. Like, that's the
very
thing,
real.
Like, that is realistic.
Like, the only good that I hope comes from that is people going, oh my God, am I that way?
Yeah.
Like, do I treat people that way? I hope to God there was at least one person out there who is listening to this podcast who says, I can't believe I was that much of a dick and I need to change myself. Because, quite frankly, everybody is like that when you're young and you're growing up. You're just hoping that you are not in the demographic that is the target of everyone else.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. It would be very interesting for a TV series or movie to explore the idea of, like, the beautiful athletes are the object of scorn of everyone else. That would be like, sign me up for that series.
Yes.
That would be funny. It would be like, let's turn this thing on its ear.
I saw someone who they'd made a comment. This is on a social media platform, and they're like, can I, like, if Stranger Things was the show but without all the strange things, I would still watch it. Can we do that show? Because I would still watch it. I'm like, you know what? I probably would too, which is really sad. Like, I mean, especially if you think to like season 1 and season 2, it's like the Stranger stuff was like sprinkled in. Like you were like really into like the characters' lives and what was going on. And then season 3, they're like, the back half of season 3, they're like, yeah, this is The Walking Dead right now. And then season 4 was like, this is an action movie.
Let's bring in the helicopters. And oh, you know what? The other thing I really loved about season 4, another great moment. This is second only to the Steve Harrington "How many children do you know?" scene, was Paul Reiser, whom I've
Yeah.
always liked as an actor. When he challenges the authoritarian figures and says, why don't we just let her decide what she wants? That, oh my God, Paul Reiser, I know you're listening to this episode. 2 thumbs way up. That was great.
I really liked his character because, you know, you couldn't tell in the beginning if he was good or bad. You wanted to believe that he was good.
Yes.
You wanted to believe that he wasn't like Papa, and it seemed like, but you never were 100% sure until season 4.
Oh, I totally thought he was evil, and then it was like, oh, maybe he's good. Maybe he's a good. Yes, you're absolutely right. Season 4, you're like, no, he's a good guy.
Yeah. Yep.
When he made that statement, and you can't always go by what they say. Like then he followed it up by what he was doing.
Yep.
It was like, oh, okay, Paul Reiser, boom, shout out to him.